We're seeing even companies be able to have headquartered in Texas, but then spending all their procurement money to a company headquartered in Dallas. So I think that could be a reexamination if we really get hyper focused on local diverse supply chains. It would force leaders like me and our companies who have to vet and build diverse supply chains to not just keep using the same over and over again. It would force us to get in the communities, meet new suppliers, and build a base that can go to market with us.
So thank you so much for joining us, Kristin. I'm very excited to have you here. First, let's talk about the big picture, supplier diversity. We're diving into this whole theme. I know we have a lot of veterans, and I was surprised myself, as I've shared with you when we first met. This is a whole world and a whole universe. There's so many people who've been here, been doing it, and yet, unless you were here, I feel it's sometimes the best kept secret. We don't know what it is about. So break us down. What is supplier diversity? Why are we keeping this a secret?
Yeah, it's so good to be here. And I'm so happy for all your success. You just keep trailblazing and you continue to innovate and you challenge us to be better and to think differently. Thank you for all your contributions and what you're giving out into the world. And I know we'll talk through that a little bit, but you're absolutely right. I think if you're not doing supplier diversity work, you're not sure of what it all means. And I agree, the best kept secret of procurement, of strategy, of business. I think at the core of it, how I kind of anchor supplier diversity is that it's an economic mobilizer. So if we take major steps back, supplier diversity started in the federal government, 2 executive orders from President Nixon. So if we go back to the riots in Detroit in 1967, we had Nixon come to office and wanted to have us all, right? He was the party of business. So he gives these 2 orders saying, if you're going to do business with the federal government, you have to include Black-owned suppliers. That was how the original order was done, right? You have to include small businesses. The second one was if you are a contractor to federal government, then you have to also then do business and hire Black-owned businesses, small businesses. And that started with the IBM, Chrysler, Ford, right? Who were all supplying to Department of Interior and DOD. And that's how it started in corporate America then. So they came together, right? And so that was to create some economic balance that we saw in that time, late 1960s. It has since then cascaded to include much more than Black-owned businesses, right? We have a vast array of diverse suppliers and small business owners and entrepreneurs. At the core of it, though, what it's designed to do is create local economies to scale on their own.
And for those who don't know what Billion Dollar Roundtable is, could you share a little bit more?
Yeah, I would love to. So the Billion Dollar Roundtable is a prestigious procurement organization. It's been around decades. And in order to be a member inducted into the BDR, the Billion Dollar Roundtable, at minimum, a global public company has to spend $1 billion with certified diverse suppliers. That gets audited. Amongst other things, you have to have a tier 2 program and have leadership support, top-down support, right? And a menu of things. But for a long time, the BDR membership for 20 years sat with members under 20. So think about it, not even half the Fortune 100 sits in the BDR. And if we think back to 2020, 2021, when the small business ecosystem collapsed here in the US, imagine if we just had half the Fortune 100 doing this work. Maybe it would have been different. We'll never know. So that's the BDR. It's a collective group. It's group thinking of how do we make this better? How do we be a North Star? But we are never just measuring by spend. It's beyond spend. It's impact.
Let's talk briefly about the future. As you have pointed out, we are at an intersection of how we think about diversity, equity, inclusion, and especially even in supply chain. But tell me a little bit more. What do you hope to see in the future? What needs to happen this year, for instance, that we hope to see in the future?
What I hope to see is a path forward for this economic rebalancing, because I do think that the divide is so great right now between the economic classes around the globe, right? There is a real hurt out there. There is real pressure out there. And so that is my hope, right? But we can't live off just hope. How I think supplier diversity can get away from the target that's on them right now, I think that's fair to say. The headlines are pretty clear. We have all these open letters swirling, right? Have you seen all those open letters from all these organizations? All the open letters, the call to actions I love the voices being heard and the ideas being risen. But what I do think needs to happen is to re-examine that supplier diversity programs in the public and private sector can probably do a better job of bringing local suppliers with them. So I live in Chicago. So city of Chicago should be hyper focused on Chicago suppliers, right? Diverse local suppliers so that we're not giving a city of Chicago contract to a supplier in Virginia. Let's do local economies. I don't think we can lose if we stay focused on local diverse supply chains,
Mhm.
because that is where we're seeing such disconnect.